And on Victory Talk Radio this evening, I am very honored to have the main people involved with a wonderful movie called Stand Your Ground that's based on a true life story. I have with us Jackie Carpenter, Francine Locke, and Sandra Williams. And also joining us a little later will be Kelsi Chandler. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.
Well, Jackie, this movie is based on true events from your life. Give us the historical background to the movie.
Well, you know what, John? It does. It goes all the way back to June 27th, 2008. And as I say in all of my interviews, I still live in that time period from June 27th, 2008 up until April 16th, 2009, which covers a 10-month period of time. And I still feel like I'm living in that period of time. Others' lives have moved forward. Mine has not. It's like God's got me in this holding pattern. And I think it's for the very reason of me sitting here right now telling you about it. When he wants me to tell about it, he doesn't want me to tell about it as in 7 years ago, as a distant reflection. He wants me to tell you about it as if it happened yesterday. So in my mind, it did happen yesterday. It was a beautiful Friday. June 27th, 2008 was a gorgeous Friday. And I remember driving to Newnan and calling Jason, my son, and I said, "How you doing today, baby?" And he said, he didn't sound good. He said, "You know, Mama," he said, "I got robbed again last night." See, Jason was a home builder. And he was a very successful home builder. But if you remember back in 2008, we had already started in a very downward economy, and he was caught up in that as well. And Jason had been robbed so many times of copper in his under construction homes. And on this particular day, he had 8 houses in one subdivision. And during the course of this 1 week, June 27th, 3 of those houses had been robbed of copper in that 1 week. 17 robberies altogether. Each time he filed all the right insurance claims, all the right police reports. Each robbery cost him approximately $6,000 to go in and redo the damage, reinstall the copper. However, the thieves were only getting about $50 a hit. But because he'd been robbed 17 times, you can see the desperation. The sad part of it was, John, he could not get any relief from the police department. But on this particular day, June 27th, a young deputy did agree to meet him to go down to the construction site and give him advice on copper theft. Now, John, you know, I'm sure the majority of what he told Jason was the truth. And what he said was, "We do not have manpower to guard your houses. But, you know, what I suggest you do is you hide in those woods over there, pointed to the woods, and just watch this next house with exposed copper. If they come back, what I can do for you is have law enforcement patrolling the area. So if your call goes into 911, well, I can have them here in 5 minutes or less." You know, I didn't particularly like that. But number one, nobody thought they would come back 4 times in 1 week. And Jason was only going to do it for the weekend. That's what he agreed with the deputy, only for the weekend. And on Monday, he had hired a full-time security guard that was going to take care of this. But Jason was in those woods that Friday night, really not thinking anybody would ever show up. I certainly didn't, or I would have been down there with him. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, he hears a vehicle coming, and it's a white van. And it goes by very slow. He thinks they're lost. They turn around, they come back by very slow, but they leave and they go on. And he thinks, well, they're just lost, until he sees the brake lights and they're turning around and they come back really slow. They cut their engine off in the middle of the road and they sit there for a second. He says, something's wrong here. And then they cut their headlights on and they pull right back into this driveway where he's at. And the way that they turn their vehicle into this house, the headlights are directly on him in the woods. And he fell off the little bucket he was sitting on, and he got to his phone and he called 911 and he said, "Send the police on over here, I'm being robbed." And then after that call, he made another call to his father-in-law, who also knew he was out there in those woods. And he said, Billy, they're back. And Billy said, Jason, have you called the police department? And he said, yes, I have. And Billy said, well, do you need me to come over there? And Jason said, I'm scared. I'm scared out here. So Billy says, well, let me get dressed and I'm going to meet y'all over there. So as Jason is sitting here watching this van in the pitch black of night, he's wondering, where are the police? They're supposed to be here in 5 minutes or less. But he does see headlights coming down the highway, and he thinks, well, thank God, the police are here, and this nightmare is over. As this vehicle pulls in behind the van, he's totally relieved. You know, this worked really well until he sees who is approaching the van. And it's not the police. It's his father-in-law. Mm-hmm. You see, that young deputy, after he gave Jason this advice, that was the end of it for him. He never told law enforcement my son was in those woods. He never had backup in the area. So what I'm about to tell you happened somewhere between 12 and 22 minutes. And by the time the police did get there, everything that I'm about to tell you had already taken place. Mm-hmm. Jason could no longer stay in those woods. He came out, he fired a warning shot into the air with an old double-barrel shotgun that my daddy gave him when he was a little boy. He'd never fired it. It had always been up on a shelf. The deputy did tell Jason, if bad came to worse in the state of Georgia, you are allowed to make what is called a citizen's arrest. That's where you are allowed to hold them at gunpoint. You are allowed to bind their hands and feet. Then you call the police. They come make the formal arrest. So at this point, basically, that's what Jason's trying to do. Him and Billy start ordering the men out of the van, and the two up front get out. They lay down. They're so cooperative. They're doing everything because Jason is telling them, I do not want to hurt you. I have been robbed so many times. I'm doing what the police tell me to do. They'll be here any second. Just do what I'm telling you. They'll be here any second. So they was totally cooperative. But Jason could still see shadows in the back of the van. And John, they were not coming out. They were 3 illegal Hispanics. So the 2 that got out started translating everything Jason was saying into Spanish. They themselves was telling this third guy, come out, put your hands behind you, lay down. He doesn't want to hurt you. They're translating. He does finally come out, but he did not come out like the other 2. He came out totally rebellious. He did go over. He did lay down beside the other 2, and Billy stood in front of him with a flashlight on him as Jason went back over to that first man and got down and started trying to tie his hands. When he got down, he looked. Number 1, he didn't know if any of them were armed. Number 2, he didn't know if there was still more in the van. Number 3, it was pitch black. The only lights were Billy's headlights on his little truck and that little flashlight that he's holding on the rebellious guy. And as Jason is starting to try to tie this first man's hand, he looks and the rebellious guy is getting up. Jason doesn't know what he's about to do. The only thing he knows for sure is this, John. He's going after Billy. So Jason grabbed the old gun up off the ground, holding it like you would hold a stick, finger nowhere near a trigger, ran over and pushed him down with that gun. And when he did, the guy was getting up. As Jason pushed him down, as that collision took place, this gun misfired. Now, if all that's not bad enough, Jason calls 911 again and says, send an ambulance. She said, the police are on their way. He said, no, I need an ambulance. So the ambulance doesn't get there either. So they get him up. They put him in Billy's truck where Billy takes him to the hospital, and in the early morning hours, he does die. And when the deputy finds out that his advice to Jason had caused the death of this young man, what he does is this, John. He goes to the judge in the early morning hours, somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, and he says, you know what? I did meet him down there, but he was in such a rage over all of the copper theft. He said he just wanted to kill somebody. He said, so I want him arrested and charged and with felony murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm. Now, by the time we got in to see Jason in cell block A on Saturday, about a little bit after lunchtime, Jason had these charges. Now, I don't even want to start to tell you what that experience was like, going back into cell block A and seeing him for the first time after he'd been interrogated all night. He didn't even look like my son. His eyes were swollen. You could tell he'd been crying all night. He was so distraught that I could hardly recognize him in there. But by the time we got back home that night, the same young deputy had gotten the other two alleged copper thieves, and he had taken them back down to the construction site. But this time he had Fox News with him. And that night on the 6 o'clock news, they were telling the world that Jason had executed their cousin. So now Jason is being tried through the courts of public opinion, through the news media, and he's being found guilty and really hung because there's no way out at this point. We're not allowed to say a word. We're under gag orders. We can't come to any kind of defense of Jason. So that's what's being portrayed, that Jason is a murderer. You know, we did what everybody else would do, John, what Francine, what Sandra, what you would do. We went out. We hired the best attorney in the Southeast. And he came in and he looked at the case and he said, "This does not look good." Now, John, as a mother, that didn't cut it. I knew my son was innocent. And so I decided if this attorney is not going to be able to free my son, well, it looked like it was going to come down to me having to do this. So I started studying Georgia law 25 hours a day. And I did that for 6 months when I received a call from my doctor. And she said, "You need to go straight to the hospital. You're a dead woman, Jackie." Well, by the time I got to the hospital, I realized I had been a dead woman for quite a while as I was laying on that hospital bed, and they was having to fill my body back up with blood because I barely had enough blood in my body to even pump my heart. But that was the place where life changed. That was the place where God got me away from the law books, from the internet, where he could deal with me, where he could speak with me. And what he said was this: "You are searching the wrong books. You're searching the wrong places." So when I got out of the hospital, I went by the drugstore to get my medication. And there on the choice book stand was a book, Psalm 91, God's Shield of Protection. I bought that book. I took it home. I climbed into my prayer closet and I started reading. It's short stories of miracles, one miracle after another. And I confronted God and I said, "You know what? If you will give all of these people miracles, surely you'll give me one. I'm your child." Jason was called 6 months ago into the ministry. Jason was called to preach 6 months before this incident. I said, "Surely if you have done this for all these people, you will do this for us." So I started claiming a Psalm 91 miracle for my family, for Jason, for us. Every week I would copy stories out of this Psalm 91 book and send it to my entire family to keep them alive. Because see what happens, John, I wasn't the only one dying. Everybody around me was dying. Because when something like this happens in your family, it doesn't affect just that one person. It affects everyone who loves that person. So I was trying to not only keep Jason alive, I was trying to keep everybody in my family alive. And, but I couldn't just stay in my prayer closet. I had to come out. And when I come out, I had to go back into those conference rooms with those attorneys where once again, I was starting to die again. See, Psalm 91 was my life support, my intensive care unit. But once I got into the conference rooms, they were killing me again. Like this: "Jackie, it's not a matter of whether or not Jason's going to prison. It's a matter of how long he's going for." And I would sit there and just cringe. And I would get back home and I would go back into my prayer closet and I would hook back up to Psalms. Because it's the hospital of Psalms. I call that my rehab center. I call Psalms my hospital, my faith rehabilitation center. It's everything to me. Whereas Psalm 91 was the intensive care unit within this hospital of Psalms. But see, God was telling me things that these attorneys couldn't tell me, John. God was telling me things that was keeping me alive. Things like this: "Jackie, I can take the crooked way and make it straight. Jackie, I can take the devices of the wicked and make them to non-effect. Jackie, put not your trust in man. I am your defense." So I would hook back up and I would be living again under the wings. Under God's wings, I would be breathing again. And you know what? I kept thinking, well, surely we're never going to go to a murder trial. Surely this thing's going to straighten itself out. Surely they're going to come to the truth. Surely we're not going to a murder trial. Oh, but John, 10 months later, I found out we're going. And not only are we going, they wanted to see Jason on Saturday before we go to court on Monday. It was Easter weekend. When he came to my house on Easter Sunday, here's what he said to me. Mama, those attorneys said to tell you, when you come to court in the morning at 9 o'clock, leave that Bible of yours at home. Well, that killed me right there on the spot. And I couldn't let Jason see me dying right there. But I said, Jason, why? He said, Mama, they're saying that if there's one unbeliever on that jury and they see your Bible, Mama, that one juror could send me to prison for 30 years, Mama. I almost lost it, John, but I couldn't in front of Jason. I had to always stay strong in front of my family. But the soonest I could escape and get away from them, I ran back into my prayer closet and I confronted God once again, and it wasn't pretty. I said, what is this? You're using me to send my son to prison for 30 years? You're using me to do it? He said, Jackie, you've been telling everybody that you're going to get this miracle through Psalm 91. Do you believe it? I said, yes. He said, well, do you want me to show up and clear him of 3 of those charges, maybe 75%? I said, no. He said, no, you want me to show up. You want me to clear him of all 5 charges. You want me to show up at 100%. I said, yes, God, that's what I want you to do. He said, then you better show up with 100%. Now, John, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where Satan tried to shut me down. This is where Satan tried to put an end to my entire family. And I promise you this, if I had taken the attorney's advice, if I had let Satan scare me into leaving my Bible at home, I promise you we would not be having this interview. I promise you tonight I would be trying to get through to some federal penitentiary somewhere to talk to my son if he was still alive. But I couldn't. I had to have the Bible to breathe. I had to go to the courtroom. I had to be there for my son, and I could not be there unless I could breathe. So I took my Bible. I went right on through the metal detectors. I did not hide it because the attorneys on one hand are saying, outside of a miracle, we have no hope. On the other hand, they're saying, leave your Bible at home. So I could not put my trust in man. I had stopped doing that several months prior. Everything I had was tied up in God. Everything I had was tied up in Psalm 91. So, yes, John, we did go to the trial. When I opened those big doors going into that courtroom on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I realized that God himself had just opened the gates of hell. And for the next 4 days, our family would literally walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We would walk through hell. But John, the flip side of that is we did not walk alone. God was with us every step of the way, and he's with us today, John.
Wow. Yeah. Well, how did the process come about to put this on film? I think you wrote a book first, right, about it?
I did. You know what? God showed me something, Francine and Sandra, just this week, that he's continuously showing me new things, but he showed me something this week that just blew me out of the water. After the verdict, I couldn't breathe. I literally could not breathe. And after the verdict, when I came up, I was literally in the floor as they were reading the verdict because I could not breathe. My head was face down in my Bible. It was like I was suffocating. And my head was down inside my Bible, and my husband was down on top of me, just trying to make sure that I wasn't dying right there and trying to keep me alive. But when I literally came up, the only thing I could do was look up. And the only words that I could form, I couldn't talk. The only things that would come out of my mouth were praises. And it was like, thank you, Jesus, praise, praise, praise. But I realized it was at that point, and that probably went on for a good 2 to 3 minutes, where I couldn't even form words. And it was during, I believe, that 2 to 3 minutes that God showed me right there in that 2 to 3 minutes that He transformed me. He transformed me into this person that is sitting here talking to you today. And that transformation started right there in that 2 to 3 minutes when I couldn't speak, where I couldn't do anything but look to the heavens and praise, praise, praise. Because when this thing ended and I was sitting at my desk, God started talking to me. And He started having me write things down and look at it. God used me, Johnny, and there was a book out there, and a year later, there He starts again with the second book, and one thing led to another. One book led to an interview that led to another interview that led to a producer saying, let's produce it, which led to Triple Horse Studios coming in, which led to Stand Your Ground movie.
Awesome. Well, let's bring Francine and Sandra into the conversation here. Both of you play main characters in the movie. Francine plays you, Jackie, in the movie, and Sandra plays the prosecuting attorney. Francine, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this movie and playing Jackie's character.
Well, it was interesting because it wasn't the customary journey you usually take to get a role. A friend of mine had posted that there was this particular movie, which previously was called A Cry for Justice, and they were casting, and he gave a description of Jackie's character, and it just felt like it fit me to a T. I knew the emotional journey she'd been on, having gone through many, many challenges in my past, and so I sent a copy of my video onto their Facebook page and said, I know you don't, this is not conventional, but here's my video. I would love the opportunity to audition, and they were going to be auditioning that weekend. And coincidentally, if you believe in coincidences, Jackie had clicked on that, and she saw my face, and she said, oh, well, she looks like a nice girl, but I don't know what a video audition is. And so she clicked off, and then my understanding is that Jackie went back to that link later on in the day, and she started watching my demo reel. Well, we don't have, we're having auditions this weekend, and this just isn't going to work. And then the third time around of her clicking on my demo link, she watched the whole thing, and what she told me when she saw me was, Francine, that very last scene in your reel, that was my Jason, because I'm reaching out to a young man. We're in the rain, we're both crying, and there's this heartfelt moment, and it was the funniest thing because the actor's name was actually Jason. I said, it was Jason, Jackie. And after that, she got me in contact with Michael McLennan, the director, and we had an extremely long phone call, and he sent me the script. He said, this is not conventional. I'm not supposed to be doing this, but I just feel so right about this. And through divine intervention, they liked me. And I ended up going down that weekend for the, not that weekend, but the following weekend for callbacks to see all of the other primary characters and to read with them. And it was just it was a perfect fit. And that's how it happened.
John, all right. Let me interject something right there. We had began all the auditions. We had this entire movie fully cast, with the exception of the lead role of Jackie. And Jackie, let me tell you, I remember that night, I bet you 50 to 75 Jackies came through. I was sitting there watching these auditions. It was like one Jackie after another coming through auditioning. And none of them were right. None of them were right. And I remember going home and pulling up Francine's reel. And I remember thinking, I think I like her. I think I do. Well, but there again, like she said, I never thought they would accept a video audition because all these Jackies were coming through. But I didn't care for any of those Jackies. I really didn't. And that was the only role that they would accept any input from me. That was the only role, was the role of Jackie, where I could chime in with my 2 cents worth. Wow. And I just said I just don't feel good about any of those Jackies. So when I did send them Francine's reel to Michael, I told him, I said, I really think this is Jackie. So yeah, I just knew that. Again, it was God's divine intervention, because if Francine had not sent me the reel,
if my friend had not sent me the audition request.
I'm telling you.
I can't imagine the movie without Francine playing Jackie. It was just such a wonderful job at that. And I've got a couple of clips here. First, this is, and Jackie, you touched on this earlier about how you tried to fix this yourself, and this is one of the clips in a wonderful portrayal by Francine, where in the beginning, where you're confronting God.
Oh, yes.
You so loved the world that you gave your only begotten Son. But I cannot give mine, and I can't sit back and do nothing. Now, if you won't fix this, I will. I will. I will find a way. If you won't, I will.
That's pretty powerful.
That was an incredibly powerful scene.
Oh, gosh. Everybody asked me, Jackie, what's your favorite scene in the whole movie? And there are two. And both of them are Francine, her confrontations with God. The first one, when she, that one that you just played, where she confronted him head on. But then the second one was when she had to come back later and say, I'm sorry, I can't. Those were my two favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, and and you talk about the second part. Here's the surrender.
My Heavenly Father, I'm so tired. I have done everything I know for my Jason. We all have. As much as I love him, I know you love him more. He's so heavy, my arms just can't hold him anymore. Take him from me. Take him into your arms.
Another powerful scene. I like the musical score behind that too.
Yeah, my two favorite scenes.
Yeah, Francine, how do you, when you do those two scenes? I mean, they're so diametrically opposed to one another. How do you get yourself ready to do those?
Well, we had an excellent director in Michael McClendon, and the very first scene that we actually filmed was this second clip that you just played. And thank you for playing that, hearing it rather than seeing it. I've only ever seen it at the same time. That's powerful. Mm-hmm. I mean, those words, they really mean something. But Michael would basically take me through every scene that we were doing and tell me where I was emotionally or where Jackie was, what she'd just been through, because nothing is ever filmed in sequential order. So I'd be, I'd wonder, where exactly am I? Did I hear this yet? Do I know this yet? And that was the very first scene that we filmed, and it was a pretty intense day. It was the first day that I met everybody on set, and I went onto the soundstage or into the church saying, okay, this is not about me. I am not here to be Francine. I'm here to do what it is that I was put here to do. And so I listened to Michael, and I just let myself be who I was supposed to be, and that was Jackie, a crushed woman having finally been broken down and given herself up.
Yeah.
And even more difficult than giving yourself up is giving your son up. and that I had experienced in my life. So that's what I did. I gave him back.
Well, and God gave his son up too, so it's just the whole scene all ties in together.
Yes.
I got one more clip I want to play. I love this one because their culture today is so everybody's ready to be offended by something. And I love this scene where you talk about taking the Bible into the courtroom. Here it is.
Well, it's about the trial.
Don't just say it, Ellis.
Cain has asked that you, well, all of us, certain things. Cain feels, we all feel that you should not bring your Bible into the courtroom. If there are non-believers among the jury members, and when they look at you and they see your Bible, it might offend them. Jackie, they could hold that against you. They could hold that against Jason. Well, that was the main thing that I just was coming over for.
What else do you want, Ellis? You want me to change my hair? You know, this length might offend somebody. What color outfit you think I ought to wear? Because blue might offend somebody, but red is bound to set somebody off. And how about if we do forget the Bible for those non-believers, Ellis? How about the believers? You know, I guess it all just comes down to who I'm going to offend, because I guarantee you I will offend somebody. Thank you, Ellis. I just didn't have enough on my plate today.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That one's good audio, but when you see that visually, when you whip your head around and start confronting them, it's just like uh-oh. Everybody's like leaning back, you know. It's like well, Sandra,
you picked three great scenes. That, and then the one where Sandra's gonna like rip out the poor defense attorney's throat.
That's right. Well, speaking of Sandra, how did you get involved in the movie and the part come about for you?
I heard about it the same way that Francine and I, we have a group of people that kind of share about different films that have a faith aspect to it, that are powerful films that are in pre-production, and we try to keep each other in the know. So I'd heard about it that way. And I was invited to come in and audition, and I auditioned for, I don't know how to word this. Francine and I were close friends before Stand Your Ground began. I knew the passion and ability for her to go and be Jackie Carpenter. I was invited to come in and audition for the role of Jackie, and went in and wrote on my little sign-in sheet that I would love to be considered for any other role, a friend of Jackie or anything like that. I am doing the sides for Jackie Carpenter, but my friend Francine is who should be Jackie Carpenter. I've never done that before. I have to admit, I've never gone into an audition and said, you know, obviously this is your person. You know that. I'm here to read sides. But God knew what he was doing. At that time, I had no idea, why am I even here? So I went in, and my intention was just do my very best. Have a good audition, enjoy these people that I'm meeting, have a good audition, and walk away. I had no idea what the purpose of it was. So I left, and I heard nothing. I knew Francine was Jackie Carpenter, and they began filming, and I was so excited hearing about the process of it. I guess about 2 weeks into filming, I got a phone call from the director, and he said that one of their cast members, a male who was to portray the prosecuting attorney Pitt, had stepped away from the project for personal reasons, and that Michael desired for me to step in to the role, and would that work out? And I had just finished filming the sequel to the Hallmark movies that I had done. I had just finished The Confession the week before, so my schedule was clear. And I jumped in. So I became prosecuting attorney the DA, Evelyn Pitt, and stepped into this amazing film family that it could not have been as smooth as it was had there not been this embracing where everybody supported each other throughout all of filming. There were a lot of lines that I had to learn. I got the script
overnight,
and
basically.
I was on set 2 days later after getting the script and had very large monologue-like scenes in the series of days that followed. And so the tension and everything that was within it, part of it was a lack of sleep because I had a hard time, telling myself, you know it, you're going to be okay, you know it. I didn't have the confidence that you typically have going into a film because I didn't have the time to spend with it prior.
But I think that actually worked out better because when you see it on screen, I got the feeling that this district attorney that she was the same way. She wasn't sleeping or eating, but she wanted to get this guy and prosecute him, and that became her entire life's passion.
That edge definitely conveyed and worked to our benefit.
And I think I told you before, and I mean this as a compliment. By the end of the movie, I'm like, man, I wish this girl would get run over by a bus or something. But, I mean, that
I agree. I did not. When we went to the early screenings, I watched and was just repulsed, in seeing the desire to disregard everything except winning.
Right.
And I had to, separate myself on set while we were filming, because I loved these people. Some I knew before, and then others, I just newly met, and they were also wonderful, but I couldn't feel that. I couldn't have that, what would convey normally within me. I had to just set that aside, so I would just go sit in a corner by myself and just brood.
Mm-hmm.
She nailed it.
Yes, she definitely did. Well, let's hear a little bit of that. This is like one of the climatic scenes where she's interrogating Jackie's son.
Mr. Veach, you understand that you're here because the grand jury of this county has indicted you on 5 counts.
I understand that.
And you understand that you are charged with unlawfully killing a young man.
I understand the charges.
What was his name?
Mr. Raimundo.
What was his full name?
Juan Carlos Raimundo.
So you admit that you killed him?
No, I don't admit I killed a man. I accidentally shot a man.
You killed him, didn't you?
I didn't mean to kill Mr. Raimundo.
Answer the question. You killed him, didn't you?
He's dead because of me.
He is dead because you shot him with a shotgun.
I accidentally killed him with that gun, yes.
Nobody else put this shotgun on his back, did they?
No, ma'am, they didn't.
And you pulled the trigger, didn't you? The shot that killed him was after you kicked him, wasn't it?
I didn't kick Mr. Raimundo. I used my foot to push him back down.
You pushed him to the ground with your foot?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Why did you omit that from your direct testimony?
What direct testimony?
The direct testimony we just had a few minutes ago. You didn't say a word about that.
But Mr. Kane didn't ask me about that.
So you lied to this court, didn't you, Mr. Veach?
When? No,
Which is it, Mr. Veach? Did you push him to the ground or did you lie to this court?
Wow.
Nasty, isn't she?
Isn't that amazing? And so revealing how you can manipulate words and create the truth that you want to present.
Isn't that,
by,
yes.
A sleight of hand.
I love the, my favorite moment was when you asked him his full name, he started to answer, you cut him right off and said, you killed him, didn't you? Just completely changed the subject. And, I mean, that's what a prosecuting attorney, I guess that's what they do, if they're trying to...
taken from actual transcripts, yes.
Wow. I mean, but I love what you just said, Sandra. You create your own truth. We do that in our culture today all the time, and it's so frustrating.
John, going back on that clip that you just had with Sandra,
mm-hmm.
I have to tell you that nobody knows what we as actresses are really like in our hearts. Real people, they see the character that you're portraying, whether it's this movie or another movie. And so people on the outside, your audience, looks at you and they think that those attributes are really you, that it's a part of you that's coming out there, that's true. And I had so many people that had seen it that I just do not like that woman. She's awful. And to know Sandra, that she has a very, very gentle, loving, caring heart, and to see her be so emotionally vested in vindictiveness was just a fantastic job, because she became somebody that she's so far removed from.
Does playing the bad guy, is that more fun?
I don't know that I would say that it is more fun, but you have to determine what is the commonality. Mm-hmm. And for myself, I had to disregard the compassion that I had for Jackie and for, the peril that they were experiencing, and totally just view it from how could the public possibly view this and it be to my advantage in running for re-election, and just think, oh, the poor victim, and this man was killed, and what is my stance on ownership of guns? I had to just embrace a mentality, and in doing that, it became all heady. And I alleviated approaching it from my heart, other than sensing that, oh, I'm passionate about it, but it all became head knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I just took the emotion and compassion away.
Wow.
And you feel very void afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I was so thankful that at the end of each day, Francine and I could say, hey, where do you want to go eat? And we would, toss what had taken place early in the day completely aside and go have a lovely dinner together.
Jackie, tell us a little bit about some of the other projects you're currently working on at this time.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing. I host a talk show, The Christian View, that comes on every Tuesday morning on WATC Channel 57 out of Atlanta. It's myself with 4 other women as co-hosts, a panel, and we discuss today's hot topics, and we weigh them against the Word of God, because God does have a view. And that, we just ended our first season, and it was just tremendous. We've been picked up by like 3 to 4 other networks, so that is just, it's just awesome what God is doing. We're looking forward at coming back, and we'll start shooting season 2 in August, so that's awesome. And Michael McClendon and myself have been working on the novel Stand Your Ground for quite a while now, and we're coming really down the home stretch to getting that published, so a lot of good things going on.
Where online can people get more information about you and about this movie?
My personal website is bridgetoamiracle.com, bridgetoamiracle.com. The television show, The Christian View, is thechristianview.tv, and the movie is standyourgroundmovie.com.
Now, is The Christian View or any of the episodes online to where people can watch them?
They're all online, yes. If you go to the Facebook page, well, you can watch them from the website. There's a link to episodes. You can watch from that. You can watch from Facebook. I think there's a link there directly to them. They're all on YouTube, The Christian View.
Great. Now, Francine, I got a note here. I always look at everybody's IMDb here and look for interesting facts. I read that you hold a degree in criminal justice from the University of Illinois. That's impressive.
It was when I had been to college for about 4 years, I had the same amount of credit hours in 5 different areas, and I decided that criminal justice and forensics was the most interesting and the most that I could potentially do something with, because you don't have a lot of opportunity to use.
You would have been a great prosecutor too.
And that would have been my second choice, Jackie.
Wow. Now, what are some of the projects?
Go ahead.
What are some of the projects you're working on?
Well, interestingly enough, currently we're starting, Michael McClendon and I have been working on a project based loosely on my past story. It's called Take You With You, and we're at the point of getting ready to do a couple of table reads and looking into casting it and getting financial investors. It's a it's a great story. It's not Jackie's story, but it's a really, really heart-moving family story that will touch a lot of hearts in a lot of different ways. Additionally, like I mentioned, I am Avery's mama in Nashville, and Lord willing, he's going to bring that baby back to my house so that I can help raise it. And a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going up to Buffalo working on an independent film with a friend up there that Sandra has also worked for, so we have kind of a close network here.
Yeah.
And all those things keep you real busy.
And where can our audience find out more about you online?
Well, I have two Facebook pages. One is Francine Locke /actress, and I put more business-related information there. Then I also am Francine Locke on Facebook. Additionally, I'm Francine Locke on Twitter, and my website is francinelocke.com. So any of those avenues, and if one were to go on my website, they can click on a link if they want to reach out to me. I've got a contact there. So that's where you can learn about me.
And Sandra, I failed to mention this, read this earlier on regarding the movie. I read this on one of the web pages. It says Sandra Elise Williams has gained widespread acclaim for her portrayal of an attorney dedicated to winning at all costs, and deservedly so. Her delicately layered performance is deceptive, manipulative, and ultimately chilling. That's good.
Oh, those are lovely words.
Yeah. And to think this from someone who was chosen as the most courteous in high school.
Okay, great. So they did some research on me. Wow.
That's on IMDb. That's on.
Wow.
And you have a master's degree in guidance and counseling, right?
I do, yes. My background is education, and I taught in public school and private school for many years, and I have a master's in guidance and counseling.
And what are some of the current projects you're working on or maybe have just completed?
I've done a whole bunch of commercials recently, but as far as film, I was recently in the Nashville, Tennessee area working on a project that Tori Martin is one of the main writers. He and Marshall,
Younger.
Young? Younger. The two of them wrote together and went up and did that. It's called Heaven Bound, and it is a comedy. And fantastic scripts and fantastic actors involved with it. So that's the most recent film that I was involved in. We're finishing up the school year. I have 2 teenage sons, and so that's where my focus is right now. The countdown is 10 more days until school is out.
Wow. Yeah. And I understand you play a doctor in some radio show skit that's happening.
Yes. I get to be the doctor in the Baby Shugs show that you are in with Apollonia, and that was such a fantastic collaboration. Very, very hilarious and entertaining.
And we also have with us Kelsi Chandler, who has a big part in the movie Stand Your Ground. Welcome, Kelsi.
Hi, thanks, John.
Well, tell us a little bit about how your role in this movie came about, how you got involved in it, and a little bit about your character that you play.
Sure. So the director, Michael McClendon, I had been a student of his, and at the time that he was writing the screenplay, I was actually in school in Los Angeles. I reached out to him and said that I was planning on coming back to Georgia at some point, and he told me about a movie he was writing and or screenplay he was writing, and I said, well, great, I hope things go well, and then eventually got an audition for it and was not expecting it, and auditioned for the film, and I didn't actually feel like it went really well. It was one of my first auditions, and then got a call back and made it to the final round and just enjoyed myself in the callback and interacting with the little boy, Lane, who plays JJ, and leaving the callback and just feeling happy with what I was able to do. And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from Michael, and he said, Kelsi, can you play the piano as well? And I said, yeah, I can. Why? And he said, because you're cast as Stephanie. It was a very surreal moment for me because Stand Your Ground was the first film that I had ever been a part of. Coming back from acting school and being able to do something I'd always dreamed of doing was incredible to me. And so Stephanie is a pillar of strength, and just quiet love, and that's what she represents in the movie and who Stephanie Beach is in life. Through the tumultuous time that her family was going through, she kind of just had to hold it together for her son. And I didn't get to meet Stephanie until after we started filming, but she was everything that I had envisioned once I did get to meet her.
Well, you mentioned playing the piano. You sang a beautiful song in the movie, the classic hymn "In the Garden." How did that? Was that already in the script, or was that kind of written for you to sing, or how did that come about?
No, it was already in the script. Stephanie's mom was a pianist, and Stephanie had played the piano at her church, and so she really did have a conversation with Jason while he was in jail, and played that song for him, just to give him peace and make him feel like he was at home. And so that was already in the script, and they were just hoping that I would be able to deliver. I had taken piano for 12 years growing up, and had sang as well, and so that was an opportunity to use that, but it was very nerve-wracking doing that in front of a camera. And it was the first scene that Lane who plays JJ, that we did together, and he was very nervous, and it was just an interesting scene, but it came out beautifully, and I think it was shot beautifully and edited very well, so I appreciate all the wonderful things that people have to say about it. It was a great thing for my mom, because she saw all the fruits of her labor come out with that, because she had spent so much money on those lessons for me. So she was excited about that.
Well, it was well worth it then, yes.
Yes.
All right, well, here is Kelsi singing "In the Garden."
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
Well, that was just beautiful.
Well, thank you. We wanted to do Stephanie and Jason's story justice, and that was a huge part of their story, and very special for Stephanie. And I just wanted to tell her truth and honor her in that, and I'm just very thankful that it did.
Well, you're a really good singer. Have you ever thought about maybe doing that on the side as well?
I have thought about it before. I did musical theater growing up, and I kind of, turned my attention to just film acting and put singing to the side. But it's always something I loved, always something I did as a kid. Having a hairbrush in front of the mirror. It was fun for me. But at some point, my true love turned to film acting.
Well, you never know. God may provide the acting and the singing at the same time in a future movie or something. You just never know how that might work out.
This time, so it could happen again.
That's right. Now, in addition to acting, you're also kind of teaching now these days. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. Well, I currently live in North Carolina, and Drew Matthews, who plays Jason in the film, we are actually married now and starting a family. And we run a studio in North Carolina called In Studio, and we teach kids ages 6 through high school, and then we have a small adult class and teach private lessons as well. And we teach all methods of acting there. we've learned throughout our training as actors and in the professions that we do that everybody learns differently. And we really enjoy working with the kids and seeing their dreams come true. And we have kids on network television, and we also have kids getting paid to be on stage. And it's very rewarding to see a child's dreams come true. And we love working with them, and we learn from them. And I feel like they're learning life lessons as well as acting.
Wow, that is really wonderful. When you said you were teaching, I had no idea it was that extensive, and you got people that are on TV and in theater. That is wonderful.
Yes, we're very excited for them. It's it's because of their hard work that they've been able to accomplish those things. But Drew and I both, we've had really great coaches, and we've had not so great coaches, and neither of us at those kids' age had somebody invest in us. And there's a real need for that at that age when they're really discovering what they want to do and decide that this is my passion and I want to go for it. And we wanted to be that avenue for them and to encourage them and love them and show them that it can really happen. And it is happening for them.
Tell us about some of the film projects you're currently working on or have worked on recently.
So I do a lot of commercial work. TV and film, the TV world is very hard to break into, and it's very competitive, and I have the great opportunity of being able to audition and go to callbacks and be considered for projects. But that world is not easy to continue in, but commercials have been very successful for me, and short and independent films have been very successful for me right now. So I am the spokesperson for a campaign called Bet You Didn't Know, which is it's a campaign for dealerships. So the spokesperson for campaign dealerships regionally, and that keeps me busy. And I recently did a commercial with a NASCAR driver, and that was really fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the commercial world keeps me busy, and, it's fun. I do a lot of hosting as well. I love doing the TV and film. It's called North Carolina School of the Arts, and it's local here, and I work a lot with them. And they are going to school to be filmmakers and directors, and they go on to become directors. And so I'm in a lot of their films, and they go to film festivals, and through that, people see their work at film festivals, and they want to pick up their films, or they see the actors in them, and we are given opportunities to be in features. And so that's been a really great opportunity for me as well.
Now, where can our listeners find out more about you online?
Online, I have a Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/Kelsi Chandler. It's I guess what they call the fan page. It's my artistic page, so fans can keep up with me there. I did have a link to my demo reel there, but I am updating my reel as we speak because I've just received new footage from some films I've done. So if they keep up with me on there, I'll post a link to a demo reel there. And I also have Instagram, and my name is KELSUZAN. So that's how I also have a Twitter account as well, at Kelsi Chandler. So most of the social media outlets, people can find me that way.
Well, thank you all for being on the show here this evening. This has just been a blessing. Again, that's the movie is Stand Your Ground. It's on. You can find it at Walmart and several places online. I highly recommend the movie. It's a great cast and a very inspiring but also dramatic movie. So thank you again.
It's been awesome.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate speaking with you tonight.
And that'll wrap up this week's edition of Victory Talk Radio. Remember to go online to our Facebook page, which is simply called Victory Talk Radio, and you can find out more information about the show, and please like us while you're there. And keep it tuned in right here to Victory Radio, music for the soul.